If you've been wanting to start a YouTube channel or already currently have a YouTube channel but been struggling on your thumbnails, well, look no further. Welcome to Genius Tomato's thumbnail course for beginners using Photoshop. This will be a step-by-step course as beginner-friendly as it gets, and we'll start creating a thumbnail from scratch all the way to the finished product.
Hey guys, welcome to the Photoshop thumbnail crash course. Here you're going to learn how to use the fundamental tools to create a thumbnail. Okay, let's start with this first segment. Step number 1, you want to check the size of the YouTube thumbnail. Go to google.com and just type in what is the recommendation for a YouTube thumbnail. And as for 2022, YouTube thumbnail resolution requirement is 1280 by 720 pixels. Step number 2, I would look for a low-cost, royalty-free stock photo providers. And here I'm using dreamstimes.com. In the past, I also used 123rf.com. They're pretty much on the lower end in terms of fees and subscription costs. You can also go for high-end providers such as Shutterstock and Getty Images. But as a beginner, I wouldn't recommend it. Try to keep your expenses as low as possible. Dreamstimes have two kinds of packages. One is the credit package, so you just pay $15 and you get about 11 credits, or you can pay $18 and you get 15 credits, and so on and so forth. And you can also do monthly subscriptions ranging from $25 per month to $219 per month. Photos online are intellectual properties, so make sure you always have the license to use those images. Step number 3, always organize your files. Once you downloaded those images, create a folder specifically for your project. And you want to go very detailed in naming the file, so in the future it will be easier for you to find the files. Step number 4, let's begin. Okay, so first we would go to File and click New, and then there are some options. You would choose the custom, and again YouTube size is 1280 by 720 at 72 ppi. Choose this one. Orientation is landscape. Okay, check everything. Everything looks good. Create. And then let's bring up all the stock images that we just downloaded. Okay, File, Open, and go to the folder, specific folder that you just created for your project. I would prefer to download files. They are vectors or PNG. PNG means the file, it's already been cut out, so you can literally just drag it to the file without cutting it manually. But if you can't find the PNG file in the image that you wanted, you can always download just a regular flat JPEG file, and I'll show you how to cut it out. By cutting it out means you are separating the object from the background. Here I have an example of the PNG files. Like this toxic symbol, I can literally just drag it and see it's already been cut out, and you can just move it around however you want it. It is very crucial to arrange your workspace. And for beginner, I would just suggest to just go to Window, Workspace, and I would just choose Graphic and Web. Here I would organize all the stock images that I downloaded. I would normally position the canvas right at the center, and the rest, all the stock images, on the sides. But you can do it however you want it, whichever is easier for your eyes to work with. Here we have the canvas that we created, which is 1280 by 720 pixels. And then here is the main picture that I would put as the background, which is a picture of a container ship. And first, I would check the size. As you can see on the bottom here, it says 4,230 pixels length by 2,820 pixels height. So this is definitely way too big. So I would reduce the size to at least close enough to the same ratio as 1280 by 720 pixels. Then I will drag the picture to my canvas. Okay, looks like this is a good size. In this case, I kind of want this ship a little bit bigger, so I can just, you can hit Control T on a PC, or you can hit Apple T for transform on iMac. You can also click on the top left, edit, on the drop down pick transform and scale. Then here on the top, as you can see, there's a width 100%, and then there's a height also 100%. In this case, if you uncheck this link, then the proportion, if you change the height, for example, it will distort the image. So what we're gonna do is we are going to check this link mark here. By selecting this link icon here, that means the proportions will be constrained. We can close this ship stock image since we're done with it. Okay, now so back to transforming. You can use percentage or pixels. In this case, I will use percentage. I will try to enlarge it by 125%. Okay, maybe you can also use the arrow up to enlarge and arrow down to make it smaller. As part of the brainstorming, I would normally just bring all the images onto the canvas, and this because you can just drag them. Here I got the arrow, and I'll bring the toxic symbol. I'll close it since you don't use it anymore. And I have the China flag. Oops. Okay, I forgot to make it smaller. Here it says the size is 7,000 by 5,449 pixels. That's way too big, so let's resize it. I would usually resize it about 1,000 pixels width. Then you can close this. And now, since it's a little bit too big, then you will do the same thing again. Edit, transform, scale. And then again, you want to make sure this is checked. And we'll just do 70%. Okay, let's see, up a little bit. And then I will move it to the right. So now I would like to rotate this. Let's go to back to edit. I'm gonna drop down, choose transform, rotate. Okay. So now as you can see, as I move this, now as you move your mouse, you can see it's turning into rotate anchor. Okay, let's now rotate this. With the rotate cursor, you can rotate however you want it. Okay, now I'll just keep moving things around until I kind of get the feel. Okay, so the arrow is definitely too big. Let's do the same thing. Edit, transform, scale. Okay, let's do 80%. Oops. Let's do 20%. Let's do a rotate on this one. Okay, actually, let's do the opposite. You can also do flip horizontal, edit, transform, flip horizontal. Okay, now the arrow is pointing to the ship. In Photoshop, rule of thumb is always save every few steps of the way, because sometimes you don't ever know, the computer might crashes, and it happened to me before. So let's just save this file, save as. We'll just save it on my computer. Okay. Save it in the right folder, designated folder. I would name this thumbnail beginner course. Save this. The images that I would drag onto the canvas during brainstorm stage are those that has no background, that has a transparent background, meaning they are PNG files, such as these, the flag and the toxic symbol and the arrow. As for the flat image, such as the garlic here, if I drag this, then it will have the white background, so we don't want this. So I will show you how to remove the background by cutting it out using the magic wand tool right here, or you can, for more advanced level, you would use the pen tool right here. For this practice, let's just use the teddy bear first, since it is way simpler to do. Okay, let's select, go to the left bar here. Here you'll see a magic wand tool, click that. And for tolerance, I would just leave it at 10 pixels. Tolerance determines the color range of selected pixels. A low value selects the few colors very similar to the pixel you click, and a higher value selects a broader range of colors. For this kind of image where the background is pure white and the object can be separated easily with the magic wand tool with just using a 10 pixels tolerance, about 5 to 10 pixels is good enough. And you can just click it on the white background, and you can see that it's starting to select the pure white background, and you can see in the bottom here is not quite selected yet. So we have to click again, and you can just on your keyboard just hold shift, and you can just click. So basically you're just adding the area, the selected area. Keep on going until you close all the area. This part's a little bit difficult because of the shadow. So what I normally would do, I would just keep holding shift to keep selecting, and then once it gets a little bit complex here, I would just use the lasso tool, which is on the left toolbar here. This is a lasso tool, so meaning I would just select it manually using my hand. Click here and hold shift on your keyboard, and I can just quickly manually select it. For a beginner, it might be a little bit difficult to use this lasso tool. You can also use a pen tool if you prefer, but pen tool for some people is a little bit more advanced, I feel like. So for this practice, I will just show you the easy way using a lasso tool, since it's just a low resolution thumbnail. So holding shift on your keyboard is to add onto the current selection, while the opposite, to reduce the selection, you would hold Alt on your keyboard, and then it will reduce the selection. It will minus the selection, so to speak. Now you would hit select, inverse, and now it will only choose the object, which is a teddy bear. So now you're ready to remove the object from the background. What I would normally do is I would just go to layer, new, layer via cut. So on the bottom right, there is a panel with a tab here called layers. So this is where all your working files are shown as layers. In this panel, you can see your working file in layers. Okay, since we already cut out the teddy bear, now you can see the teddy bear has a transparent background. But since the original background was white right here, so that's why you still see the white here. So now what I would do is if I click the eye icon here, meaning hiding the white background, the original white background. So now as you can see, there's no background. So if I turn it back on, then you'll see white. So now the teddy bear is good to go. You can just drag the teddy bear straight onto your canvas. Okay, in this case, the size is good enough, 1000 by 1000 pixels, so you don't have to resize it. I will just close this since we don't need it anymore. So now we have the teddy bear here. Now we'll just place it here, and now we'll hit save so we don't lose this. And now let's do the next one, which is the garlic. For this case, the garlic is more complex because it's a light object on a light background. So it'll be a little bit harder for the magic wand to separate the two, the object and the background. So I will show you how to use the pen tool for such task. So on the toolbar on the left, click on the pen icon and click on the first pen tool on the drop down. So you would just pick any points. I normally go clockwise, so in this case I would just start from here and I would just enlarge it so it's easier to see. To move your canvas around, you can use this spacebar here on the picture, or you can just on your keyboard you can hold space. Then as you can see, the cursor now is turning into a hand, and then you can literally just move your canvas around, which is what I normally do. So once you let go of your spacebar on the keyboard, then it will turn back to the pen tool. So okay, so let's start here. Let's click on the first point here, and then you would pick the next curve as a second point, and then click and hold and drag the line to create the curve. Click and hold Alt on your keyboard on the PC. Hold it, then this will turn into a cursor that I can just drag around to, and then I will just move it around until I get the shape, the curve that I wanted. And then I wouldn't let go, so I will keep holding the left part of the mouse, and then I would click and hold Alt on the keyboard as well. And when you hold Alt, now it's locking the other points, but I can move this cursor around, as you can see here. And then I will let go of both, and then now I would just move this point to create the next curve. And usually I would go halfway, so I would just go around here, and let's see, actually since this is a big curve, I would just drag this a little bit longer. So I would click and hold Alt again on the keyboards, and then once I move the cursor around, the mouse around, it will turn into this icon, and I will just drag the point here, the white point here, a little bit further down, around halfway of the curve, and then I will let go of the Alt button on the keyboard, and I will just click onto the other end of the curve, the next curve right here. And as you can see, it's a little bit too further up, so I will just click and hold the Alt button again on the keyboards, and I will move my mouse around until this the cursor turned into this icon again, and I will push it back in until I get the curve that I want. This is another way of selecting the object. This is honestly my favorite way to select, because the result is very clean. It's a clean cut compared to the magic one, but it's just a little bit more time consuming for a beginner. But once you get used to the whole rhythm and how it works, and your hands will get used to it, then you'll get faster as you go. So now we'll do the same thing for the next curve. So I will pick up here the next point here. I will do the same thing, click and hold Alt, and I'll move the mouse around until it turns into this icon again. I'll move this up, do the same exact thing, but this time it's a smaller curve, so usually I would just do about a half. So I would drag the point up to half of the curve, if that makes sense. Okay, so now again, this is a little bit further out, so I have to drag this back in. So what I'm gonna do is the same way you would click and hold Alt on the keyboard, and move your cursor around until it turns to this icon, and bring it back in. And now the same thing, keep on going. Now you will pick up the next point right here, and click and hold Alt again on the keyboard, drag this out halfway, and do the same thing over. This time it's a little bit better, it's a little close. And now hold Alt again. Okay, click the next one, and I would do for this one, I will just click here. Okay. Oops. Click. Do the same thing. Click Alt and hold. Move this around. Once you get used to this, you get the hang of it. The more you do this, the more you get used to it. Do the same thing. Keep on going until you get the whole garlic selected. Again, using the pen tool is really fun. It's like there's a rhythm to it. So the more you do this, both your left and right hand will get used to it, and then both hands can work together simultaneously. Keep on practicing with the pen tool using both hands, and you'll get faster as you go. Okay, finally we're done selecting this. I would hit the right click on the mouse, make selection. Usually I would do half a pixel, so it will have a feather effect. Feather means it's smoothing around the edges so it won't get too raggedy. And I'll just keep this anti-aliased. Okay, now we have this, and now we click select. We click layer, new, layer via cut again. So, and then you will go to the layers panel. As you can see, now you have separated the garlic from the background. So you can see if I turn off the background by clicking this eye icon here, Voila, now the garlic it's floating with no background. So okay, as you can see, I missed like a little part here in the middle, so let's get rid of this. I would enlarge this, use the same pen tool, okay, and right click, make selection, same way, edit, cut. This is to remove the background that you don't need here. Voila. Now the garlic is complete. Go to the toolbars on the left and click the move tool. And then now you can literally just drag the garlic to your canvas. And again, always file, save. Always hit save every step of the way, just in case something happened to your computer. So now we can just close the garlic. Okay, now we have this garlic here. Let's see. As you can see in Photoshop, it's all about layering. So now the garlic appears to be on top of the teddy bear. And this flag is on the foremost top, and I do not want that, and I would like the flag to be on the bottom. So in this case, you can just literally go to the layers panel, and as you can see, we have a bunch of layers here, and you can pick the layers where the flag is. And then as you can see, I can see it from the little icon here. This is the flag. This is the toxic symbol. The easiest way is to just click. If you want to see which one is which, just click on the eye icon. By clicking it, you can hide it or show it. Then you know it for sure that this is the right item. So this way you know this is the right layer that you want to work with. Now I would click on the layer 5, which is the flag. You could also rename it. Again, being organized is always the key. You can just double click on layer 5 and you can just name it flag or China flag. Okay, now let's rename each one of the layers so it'll be easier for us to work with. Okay, toxic icon. This one, garlic. Teddy bear. Arrow, ship. Okay, and for layer 1, there's nothing in here, so I will just delete it. I think I'm going to add the United States flag on this composition, so this way it will give the clear message, a visual message of how the stuffs are imported from China to United States. Okay, so I bought this stock photo. It's a PNG file, so it doesn't have any background, which is perfect, and I can just literally just drag this to the canvas. Okay, looks good. Okay, I will tilt this 45 degree to the right and bring it down a little bit. Let's enlarge this. Again, edit, transform, scale. Make sure it's checked. Let's do 103%. Next step is I would bring the China flag below the teddy bear. Okay, and I will bring the teddy bear. You can just literally click on the canvas, on the object, double click it, and then it will take you on the right layers. Photoshop is all about layers, so you gotta be on the right layer to be able to drag and modify that object. So now I would like the teddy bear too big. Let me resize it to a small. Again, edit, transform, scale. Make sure this is checked. Let's do a 70%. Okay, it might be a little too small, so let's do 80%. Okay, bring it a little bit down here. Okay, move this and then go back to the China flag. Move it down here. To rotate it, you can also bring your cursor close to the corners, any of the corners, and it will switch to a rotate cursor. You can just click hold, and you can just move, rotate it around like this. I'll just drag it up, maybe enlarge it by a couple of percent. Okay, and I would show the garlic. Like you can hit enter and double click on the garlic to choose the garlic layer. We'll just bring it here, and I will enlarge the garlic. Edit, transform, scale. Make sure this is checked. Let's do a 150%. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. Okay, so now the toxic symbols is in a way, it's a little bit too overbearing, is too big. So let's move this. Double click. And let's put it here for now. Okay, I feel like that we don't need this toxic symbol. It's a little bit too busy. I will just turn it off for now. And this, as for the arrow, I would just flip it vertical actually, to show that these goods are coming from China to USA. So let's do this. Edit, transform, flip, vertical. Okay, now and then you can move this cursor close to the corner so you can rotate it easily. Okay, bam. So now it looks more clear that it's going from here to here. And I will just hit enter and then double click on this, move this down here, and actually I want the arrow a little bit smaller. Edit, transform, scale. Make sure this is checked. 70%. Enter. Okay, so now let's move the garlic a little bit down. I would like to make the teddy bear a little bit smaller. Edit, transform, scale. Okay, 70%. Okay, I think this looks decent. Like this for now. Okay, hit enter on your keyboard. Okay. Hitting enter on your keyboard is to execute, by the way. Again, always file, save, just in case. So now I would like to incorporate some text on this thumbnail. For text, usually I would put it on the top of the images. So I would go up to the top layer. For the toxic icon, I will just delete it by just dragging this to the trash bin here. And then I will create a new layer on top of the garlic for the text or the banner. Okay, let's click on here. The plus icon is to create a new layer. So now it says layer 2. That's the standard, I guess, default. So let's just double click and rename this. I would give it like a black bar. Okay, so now we go to the marquee tool here, rectangular marquee. I would just click. Usually I would like to do it like about 70% of the canvas, be about here, and I would click on the color box here, and I would just choose black. Click OK, and I would use the paint bucket tool, but since it's not on this bar, you can customize the toolbar here. This is for the additional toolbar that you can actually customize. So in this case, I would use paint bucket. So I would just click here and voila. They actually chose the paint bucket for me because it seems like it's what I use the most. Okay, so now click paint bucket here. Bam. Okay, so now you can just deselect it. Deselect or Control D. All right. Again, I'm using PC right here. Now I would create another layer on top of the black bar for the actual text. Okay. Again, go click here on the plus to create a new layer. I would rename this title. Okay. Now I will click on the type tool right here again on the toolbar on the left. Click here, horizontal type tool, and I will left click on my mouse and drag to set my type area. And then the default was a black color, so it's right. The color for the text is on this box right here on the top. I will just double click and I will use a pick white color. And this is the default. It's just giving you a mumble jumble of text here. And then you can just change it to the title that you want. And then we're not gonna work. Okay, let's do Control A, select all, delete, and then just type imported from China. And then I will enlarge this. Just select it. And on the top here is the size for the font. You can click on the up button to up the size. Okay, I think 65 is decent. Let's say 70. And for this case, I'm used to choose the font. You can go to your type character panel right here. And in this case, we'll just use whatever's the default was, which is a Montserrat. And I will just click black, which is very thick, has a thicker body. And I would just leave the tracking at -10. Tracking is the distance between each letter horizontally. As you can see, if I play around, if I reduce it, it will become really compact. They're squeezed horizontally. So in this case, I'll just leave it -10. And as for kerning, this is the vertical. This only applies when you have 2 lines of letters. In this case, we only have 1 line, so you don't have to mess around with this. Okay, I think I'm going to change the font color to red. And let's see, select all. I'll make this a little bigger. Okay, go to here. And you can change the position of the letters. We'll just center it here. Center, flush left, flush right, flush left, or flush right. I think center is best. And then double click on this, click red, bright red. Okay, no, I think like it needs something. Okay, click out, click. Usually I would just click selection tool to get out from the other tools. That's a very basic number 1 tool here, the default. So now I would give it like a white outline on the font. To create an effect on a font, on a text, you can just double click on the layer of that text. double click and it will have a layer style. Here you have a whole bunch of options. In this case, I just want to do a stroke, meaning outlining the letters, as you can see here. Looks good so far. And now I would do a top 10. Here I would use the circle. Here the marquee tool, you can just click here, and then to activate the circular or elliptical, you can just click here. Oops. Actually, if you don't see it here, it's usually on the drop down here, but for the Photoshop 2022, sometimes it doesn't show here. You can just click here on the bottom tool that I talked about earlier. Bottom tool is for all the additional tools that are not listed on this left toolbar. Here I'm going to select the elliptical marquee tool, click on it, and I'm going to, again, always make sure you're on the right layer. So I will put it below the black bar layer. Again, click on the plus here. I would name this ellipse. Okay, and now I'm going to create a Okay, let's color this black. Okay. Again, now I want to switch it back to the paint bucket tool, which is somewhere here. This one. Okay, now click here. Now I have a black. Okay, and then after you're done, you can just deselect it. And I can actually move it a little bit or make it a little bit bigger. Edit, transform, scale. Okay. Move it to, it's good enough. Okay, and I would create another layer on top of the ellipse. I would name it top 10. Again, let's click the character that has a type tool. Yeah, let's do the word top. I would click white color for this. By default, it's always giving you all this mumble jumble, and I will just do Control A, select all, and delete. And I will just set the area, the type area smaller. Top. Okay, and click the move tool so I can move it up and down. Top. All right, and now I'm going to create the number 10. So now let's work on the number 10. Again, let's click on the type tool, and I will again create another layer. Go to the layer panel, click plus, and I guess the number 10, and I will just actually name this just top. Okay, now we're on this layer. Again, just Control A, delete, remove all the default text that Adobe provided, and just do number 10. I think this needs to be bigger, and I would like to change the font family type. Okay, so far this is good. Let's change the size. You can click Shift on your keyboard to expedite increasing the size of the fonts. And I feel like you need to make the top a little bit smaller. Again, this is not perfect. This is just for a beginner's practice. If you want to learn more in depth, then definitely there'll be more tricks and more elaborate photoshopping. Okay, I will just make this a little bigger. Okay. Let's see, and then as you can see, all these stock images, it looks like they're floating because it's missing a shadow. So for a beginner, you can just do a quickie automatic preset drop shadow that's provided by Adobe. And you can just double click on the layer again to activate the effects and click on drop shadow here. As you can see, voila, you got the drop shadow already set for you. And do the same thing for the China flag. Double click, drop shadow. Okay, I'm just doing this quickly, but again, if you want it to look way more finesse, of course you have to spend a little bit more time. And for the bear, I would like to give it an outline, a stroke they call it. So again, you can just double click on the layer. Here, check stroke. In this case, I don't like the white color. I would change the stroke color. Double click again on that. And then I will change the color to yellow. You can just drag this color bar here. Choose this yellow right here. Okay, now I have the bright yellow. Okay, let me change this a little bit brighter so it matches this. You kind of get close to this color. And you can change the thickness of the stroke. In this case, I will just use 8. Okay, and then let's see here. So far, we're almost there. And again, file, save, just in case. And now I would add drop shadow also on the teddy bear. Let me try and see how it looks. Double click, drop shadow. So let's see. Actually, it's not gonna look that good. So let's just forget about the shadow. Okay, so now let's work on the garlic. Again, double click, drop shadow. So now it has a very standard, but it looks a little bit harsh to me. But so far for what we're doing, the practice, it's fine. If you want to adjust it, you can just double click on the drop shadow here and drag this panel here so you can actually see. And the size, you can see, you can play around with the size. Usually when you make this a little bit bigger, it's smoothing it out. And the spread, I would just reduce the spread by 5%. Distance, maybe about 10 pixels. And the size, maybe about 20. Okay, well, now it looks so much better. And opacity, I think just 80% is good enough. Well, there you go. For the arrow, you can also do a drop shadow on this. Double click and drop shadow. Okay, it looks a little harsh. I can reduce the opacity of the shadow by about 35%. Okay, and the size is 10. Spread 5 or maybe 10. Okay, it's good enough. All right. If you don't like the outline of the arrow, you can buy another arrow or look for a different type of arrow online, depending on what you prefer. For this practice, I will just use this. So here we go. This is your first thumbnail. And again, always click save. So once you're done, always save your working files. This is the working Photoshop files. Save it in case you need to change something in the future, since you already spent so much time on this. So I'll just save this as a PSD file, as you can see here. In order to upload to YouTube, you have to flatten this file into a JPEG file. So you would just go here, make sure you already saved this first, and then click layer, flatten image. So now, as you can see, all your layers are gone. Now it's just one flat JPEG image. In order to save the JPEG for online uses, it would be best to save it for web and optimize it. To do this, you can just, on your keyboard, you can click and hold Shift and Control S. To do this, you can also click on File, Export, Save for Web, or you can do a shortcut by holding Alt, Shift, Control S on your keyboard. But in this practice, I'll just click this. And in this case, usually I would click Maximum is for best quality for YouTube, and make sure it's optimized is checked. Okay, and then size 1280 by 720 pixels. Okay, right click save and save it in the place that you want it. Save. All right, and then you can close all the others. There you go. So this is the beginner's thumbnail course. So if you're interested to learn more, let us know in the comment box below. I hope you learned something from this simple course, and let me know for any feedback. If I miss anything, let me know. Hopefully I'm doing a good job. Alright, until then, Genius Tomato out.